We're developing the largest business for the whole history of civilization. This is that Stevenson, Ford and Boeing have made together. This revolutionary transport system is essential for every country, every city, every family and every man. It is essential for humanity. The development of transport innovation rail SkyWay has taken 36 years and over 7 billions of rubles. For selling the technology, it is necessary to build test sections on which the technology will be certified and demonstrated to the customers from all over the world. For this purpose, in the nearest 3 years, we should invest the assets proportionate to the committed ones. After that, we will become the first in the world transport sector, the volume of which exceeds the Russia's budget several times, and occupy not less than 50% of this market. Boeing is one of the brightest examples demonstrating such facts of history. Empires are to be ruined, the Soviet Union has fallen apart, but its infrastructure, traffic one mostly, has been still functioning, like the Trans-Siberian Railway. That was built a century ago and passed through the revolution as well as civil war and world wars. The track structure of SkyWay is based on the string rail technology. These tracks will serve for the benefit of the people for ages, bringing the profits to those who once have ventured and invested their money into this innovation technology. Being certified, the project of innovation will turn into the project of investment. Then the base of this technology-targeted transport project will be realized on all the continent of our planet. Every investor, depending on the volume of its committed facilities into this technology, will own kilometers or meters of these tracks. As for infrastructure ownership and its dividends, they will devolve to future generations. Inexpensive, safe, effective roads are not required for the state and government officials, but for ordinary people who pay fares out of their pockets. And these people are not just users, they are taxpayers too. So to say, it is required only for us. For this reason, it was decided to start the innovation corporatization at English law on the terms profitable for investors. New investors have the chance now to buy the shares of our company with large discounts. Today, it costs several thousand rubles, but tomorrow it will cost millions rubles. Let's build our future worth living together, comfortable, safe, ecologically clean, with high living standard. Let's build the future, which will be able to devolve to our children and grandchildren for no shame.
Can you hear me, guys? Okay, if you can hear me, can you please put pluses if you can and minuses if you cannot hear me? So I know we can start the webinar and everyone can hear what I'm saying. Okay, seems like a couple of people. Okay, I would like to start with saying welcome. You made it. Thanks for coming tonight. I know we have been having problems with some links and with the wrong links, but hopefully some people can still join us. So I would like to start this webinar with just a small video, just to warm you up. Just want to know whether you can see my screen also. Can you see my screen? And if you can see my screen, can you just please put pluses if you can and minuses if you cannot? Okay. Okay, perfect. So this is a small video about today's topic, which is the SkyWay, which is the new transportation system. Okay, I'm just gonna start now.
Tens of thousands of years ago, primitive people brought fire into caves. This was the first technology. Our ancestors began to heat up their dwellings with fire and cook meat on coals. Many of them didn't live to the age of 20 and died from lung cancer. The air in the caves was filled with unbearable smog. What has changed since then? Mankind has improved technologically, and the number of fires has increased considerably. These fires now burn in car engines, diesel locomotives, motor ships, and airplanes, in heating furnaces, in atomic power stations, in boiler rooms, and in factories. A number of the harmful and poisonous elements in emissions have become considerably more abundant in comparison to those primitive fires. Thanks to surface and air transportation, we are breathing air, drinking water, and eating food products that contain a bit less than half of the components of the periodic table of elements: nitric oxide, carbon, sulfur, aldehyde, benzopyrene, soot, mercury, arsenic, lead, chlorine, polynuclear hydrocarbon, and radioactive isotopes. The list of these scary names can go on forever. It is precisely this atmospheric cocktail that we get whenever we go to the park to breathe the fresh air. The increasing number of motor vehicles has caused the concentration of these harmful substances to become lethal. There's also no point in forgetting about aviation. Each launch of a heavy rocket, as well as every flight of a multi-engined aircraft, creates a hole in the ozone layer that is comparable in size with the area of a European country. By the end of the century, transportation will have the capability of killing more than 150 million people in accidents and disasters and causing over 1.5 billion people to become invalids and cripples. How to avoid making this monstrous sacrifice? How to keep our planet green and not ash gray? Ride horses? Walk? Hey, Marty McFly, could you lend us, the planet's current inhabitants, 7 billion hoverboards from your past future? Indeed, effective transport has already been developed by the scientist Anatoly Yunitsky. This genius of an engineer invented the ideal transport in every sense of the word. It's called the Rail SkyWay. More than 30 years and several hundreds of millions of dollars have already been invested in order to bring Yunitsky's project to life. What do you envision to be the transport of the future? Just imagine a lightweight train or a sports car with steel wheels, which is situated on open-work elevated rails. Inside the rails, tensioned wires are stretched with the strength of hundreds of tons. Due to the ideal evenness of the track and the super aerodynamics of the rolling stock, it is capable of reaching speeds of up to 500 kilometers per hour. The cost of the trip to you will be 7 times cheaper than that of a conventional train. The level of safety will be 2,000 times higher than traveling by automobile, and a trip will require 10 times less electrical energy or fuel. And that's not the whole story. The tensioned wire rails are mounted onto lightweight but exceptionally durable supports that make it possible to save the layer of fertile soil, which is currently located under highways and railways, from destruction, an area 4 times greater in size than the total territory of Great Britain. This soil will remain alive, it will breathe, and the green plants growing on it will produce sufficient oxygen for billions of people to breathe. In order to implement this form of transport all around the world, it must be compared with equivalent amounts that have already been spent, which today is approximately the same cost as 2 or 3 football players or 1 or 2 paintings by not even the most famous of impressionists. And it is possible to make this a reality with only public funding. This is precisely the type of transport that is needed by you and me, and only we can cause this project to become a reality. Become a co-investor of the public transport future. Invest in the future of your planet. Find out more.
So that was it for the video. And I was just gonna put up the presentation now, the slides, and if you could just put pluses or minuses if you can see the presentation. Okay, perfect. So I have actually 2 requests. One request would be if you could just take a piece of paper and pen, just in case you want to write something down or something is unclear. So you can just do your own research, or if you just would like to know something more, it's always good to take notes. And the other thing is maybe I would like to invite you to switch off your phones or just put them on silent, just in case you don't get distracted. So my name is Lelda Matrosi. So I'm one of the presenters for tonight. This presentation will be in 2 parts. So the first part, I will tell you a little bit more about SkyWay as a technology and why it's important today and and why we are having this webinar today. And the second part will be about the investment part. It's more like the business side of the project. So I'm happy that at least a couple of you made it tonight. So basically, just before I start, I would like to just tell you a little bit more about myself and why I'm participating in this amazing project. I have two passions. One is health and fitness, and the other one is future technologies. And obviously, transportation is one of the biggest kind of areas down to do with like future technologies, because as you probably know and you can understand that the transportation as movement itself is like super important, considering without transport there is no way around. Like we couldn't go to work or travel, it wouldn't be possible. So my background is nothing to do with technology, as I already mentioned, but I have done quite a lot of research since the past year when I joined SkyWay company. So basically, why I think this is important and why now? Because I mean, you probably know that traveling is important, and maybe you even have noticed that the transportation as we see today, it's failing and it's not working anymore. Because I mean, trains are great, but as every single invention at some point becomes old, you know, like if you remember probably, well, maybe you don't remember, but Motorola made their phone, like the first phone, I think, like the first call from a mobile phone was made, I think, in 1978. And those phones back there in 80s, they just looked like bricks. But now we have phones that are like a million times smaller, and they have more energy and more power and more memory. And the same should happen with transportation, because the first train was invented in like 19th century. So today we are in the 21st century. So obviously, like, things have to change. And the movement is important. And the other most important thing is time. Time is our greatest asset. Like, we can always make more money, or we can always like do different things, but we're never going to be able to get back time. And if I have to travel somewhere, instead of like 1 hour, like 4 hours, I mean, I could be doing something else. I could be spending time with my family, with my friends, and it's just common sense. So why we keep spending time on traveling if we could just make our lives so much easier? And speaking of just making life easier, I mean, you probably have come across to some of the most popular problems these days, which are like spread of diseases, like poverty, hunger, like lack of drinking water. You know, for example, researchers have done some tests, and by 2035, I think 66% of the world's population won't have access to clean drinking water, which is 2/3 of the people, basically, which I think is pretty, I mean, shocking, considering that, I mean, 66% is a serious number. I mean, but I would say it's not the issue. Like, none of these problems that you see on the screen are like the major issue. Like, the major issue is overpopulation. And it's not that we don't have enough space on Earth. It's just that we are concentrating on basically on the capitals, because everyone is moving from the countrysides to the capital because there's more work, like there's more possibilities, because like there's no jobs in the countryside. So basically, if there's too many people concentrated on like capitals, and we are just getting more and more and more, it kind of leaves us in a bad situation. So I mean, you probably have come across the issues like traffic jams, and that like houses are too expensive in the capital, then you can't afford it, or you have to live in a small room or a small flat because there isn't enough 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 time, or not enough money. So basically, like, I think we have quite a few issues here, and they all have something to do with us being too many at one place. For example, we know like megapoles like China, I don't know, New York, London. I mean, there's way too many people, and there's not enough houses, and there's not enough resources. But I believe if we get the right infrastructure in place, then it shouldn't be an issue. But things have to change for us to live a better life. But to understand the common issues in the 21st century, we need to go back on the 18th century to understand where all these issues came from. Because, I mean, 18% of the world's population today on its own are relying on fossil fuels, because that's the most common energy source. It took approximately 150 million years to create fossil fuels. But starting from the 18th century till today, we have burned almost all the resources out, which means that we need to, ASAP, we need to change the way how we use energy and how we move around, which is, for example, transportation, because transportation takes a lot of energy. And just to give you an example, for example, if you drive a car, right, you need to spend approximately, let's say, I don't know, I don't drive and I'm not an expert, but let's say 10 liters per 100 kilometers. And I mean, if you compare that with, let's say, a transport that could take 1 liter per 100 kilometers, you most likely would choose to use the transportation that takes less energy. But back to the 18th century, like, the energy involves a human, animal, and both labor. And the land was slightly unnourished, and I think the most common energy source were in a form of windmills. Like later on in the 19th century, as the technology developed, obviously we had tractors and steam engines and trains. Obviously to increase the import and export, so people can travel from one city to another city, or even from one country to another country. And obviously land started to become slowly by slowly turn into concrete jungle. And you can see today, like, there isn't that much greenery out there. There's only roads, cars, houses, and we just keep building and building, like, and it seems like there's always some roadworks, there's always some junctions, like, there's just too many things going on. And it's because we need to travel around. But what I have noticed, people are concentrating too much on the existing and trying to upgrade things, and I think it's just how humans psychology works, right? Like people do not think exponentially, but they think in a linear way, and it's gonna fail soon, because I mean, we cannot stop, like, humans cannot keep upgrading existing models, existing transport, because they're gonna fail, and it's just waste of money, really. I mean, you could put much more money into, like, things that matter, for example, clean water, or just helping people who are in need, and that's so important. But just somehow people are ignoring, like, the actual issues. And it's all about saving planet, really, because I mean, if you think about it, if we are harming nature, like, nature strikes back, and Earth doesn't need us humans to sustain the life. I mean, in the end of the day, like, we are going to be the ones who will extinct if we're not going to change the way we interact with the nature, and hence all the fossil fuels. It's literally, we are just digging holes in Earth, and we are wondering why we have earthquakes, tsunamis, because we're actually harming nature. And basically, we are fast approaching global transportation crisis. I'm sure everyone can sense it and visualize it. I mean, we all been in that situation where you are just stuck in a traffic and you feel useless because there is no way around it. You have just the road, you have too many cars and too many people driving, and you're not getting anywhere. So, I mean, it is the end of the road for the transportation we know so far. It's just a question whether you are ready to join the new revolution, if you're interested in it. And I mean, the modern goal is to create a technology to harm the environment as least as possible by going green. But from what I have seen and what I have researched on, and the people I have spoke to from the industry who understand what's going on in the world, is that the technology is actually not becoming less impactful, it's just becoming smarter. So what are the alternatives, right? 30 years from now, the oil reserves will run out completely. And the combustion engines that our cars have now, they're just going to be history. And like the cars you have now, they're probably going to lay in museums. And you probably have heard about this, that like a lot of car companies are already having hybrid engines. But like, if you think about it, why are they having these engines? But to be fair, the tech revolution is already here. You probably have heard about Elon Musk, which is the CEO of Tesla car and SpaceX. Like, you can write his name down, Elon Musk. He's a true inspiration. And someone else also is. If for example Steve Jobs is the genius of the computer, I would like to introduce you with Anatoly Yunitsky, which is the man, while we all are here tonight, who is the guy behind SkyWay technology. So let me introduce you to Anatoly Yunitsky, who is the CEO of SkyWay, and he's also a scientist, an inventor, and businessman, author and chief designer of string technology, director also of 2 projects of United Nations Organization, member of USSR Cosmonautics Federation, author of over 140 inventions, 18 books, and over 200 scientific papers, and the list goes on and on. He is a true genius in transportation. He has, I think, approximately 145 patents to do with transportation. So what is SkyWay? Those are not flying trains, but those are actually trains that are built on pillars, suspensions, and supports, just to keep it above the ground. And you probably are wondering how that would work. That's one thing that you probably are thinking now. But the other thing you probably might be thinking is that there are something similar out there. Yes, there is, but not quite the same. SkyWay technology is basically, it's an elevated transportation system where the movement is organized by means of suspended rails on supporting structure. It is a fast-speed train that could pick up to 500 kilometers per hour. And not only that, I mean, if the train systems has to change, like there's supposed to be some other changes coming, which is the internet and transport will be combined. So it's not going to be only train, it will be also a exchange of information. Because if you think about it, I mean, I live in London, right? And sometimes, well, every day I'm traveling underground, and I don't have Wi-Fi there, which means that for, let's say, half an hour home and half an hour back, I mean, to work, it's like an hour without Wi-Fi. I mean, for those who are in business, you probably know that 1 hour of your time not being on social network can actually harm your business. So what does that mean? You need to have internet access everywhere. And the phone companies will not exist anymore soon, because we actually, how many of you call? I mean, most of us use Skype, I mean WhatsApp and like Viber to call people, like, and the same is going to be happening with internet. I mean, internet soon will be accessible everywhere. Even now, I think it's like 70% of the world's population has more access to internet like than ever before. Like an average boy in Africa now has access to internet and more information than, let's say, Ronald Reagan had in the end of 70s. And I think it's a huge shift, and it's already happening. So SkyWay has fast-speed trains, the public transport, and the cargo. So what are the differences? Like the fast-speed train is going to be running, let's say, from city to city, from country to country, with a maximum speed of 500 kilometers per hour, which I think is pretty amazing. And for approximately, it will have enough energy for 10,000 kilometers, and at one time it will be able to carry around 500 people. So, I mean, you probably think, yeah, but I can always take the plane, but the planes are really expensive and they do harm the environment, because the amount of kerosene that they spread in the air, I mean, it ends in our lungs in the end of the day. And also, when you travel with a plane, like you have to go to the airport, you have to check in, check out, all the luggage, all that stress, and it's unnecessary, because you actually don't need that. You can just get on the train and you just can be somewhere, let's say in Berlin in 2 hours if you travel from London, or literally anywhere, like 500 kilometers per hour. Like basically you could live anywhere and you can still travel to work on time, and that would be amazing. I think that's the most interesting thing about this project, is that you can be anywhere and you can still get on time to work, because there is no interaction with other public transport or cyclists or pedestrians, or you don't have to you don't need to be stuck in traffic. It's just quick, it's green, and it's amazing. Like the other exciting one is the public transport, which could go up to 120 kilometers per hour. And it could just mean that we will have more space for parks, playgrounds, and just people to walk around. And it means that you are getting to work on time, because there's no traffic jams. And the cargo. Like so many places in the world, they have a lot of natural resources, but they're not yet accessible. As an example, I could give you an ex-volcano called El Montun, which is located in Bolivia. They have quite a lot of iron there, but as it's located in a volcano in the middle of jungle, there isn't a transportation system so far that could go there and take it out, because that would mean, let's say, if you would use just an average train, it would take forever to build, and that would harm all the forests, and you would have to cut all the trees, and that's not what we want. The benefits of this technology: decrease of capital expenditure for constructions and the reduction of operating costs, which is the apex and capex and opex. So it's like, if you don't understand how that works, an example: a capex is basically a cost of buying a printer, and opex is a cost of, let's say, ink, just to make it work. That means an access to new remote territories, islands, mountains, and seashells, reduction of repair costs and work costs. And its net costs in comparison to speed railway, magnetic levitation trains, and aircrafts are 5 times lower, as you can see on the chart here. At the beginning, obviously, it will run on fuel, but it will take 10 times less fuel than a car, for example. But like later on, as the technology will develop, eventually it will be able to run on, let's say, solar energy. And that only means that there is more space for animals to migrate. For example, the statistics shows that by 2030, 1/4 of the species will be extinct, And I mean, there's no surprise because we just build houses and trains and just cities, and species have no place to literally migrate. So hence animals do extinct because we are harming the nature, and like we are the only ones who actually are damaging this world in the end of the day. Stability on ice, glaciations, Nordics, fogs, dust and sands. How this is going to work, it's pretty simple because the SkyWay technology is going to be built on anti-levitation structures, which is something similar on how they build houses in Japan and China, where they have all these earthquakes. Would like to introduce you with Masdar. You probably are wondering what does Masdar has to do with this project. Well, it's pretty simple. Masdar is the first post-petroleum city in the world. And it's built in very close to Dubai, and all the money that Arab Emirates earn from oil, they literally reinvested to build Masdar. Masdar is the first post-petroleum city which is built on one planet living concept, and it's 100% self-sustainable. My end result is to find a way how to build new cities so everyone can have a home, and we don't get too much stuck in the capital, because I mean, who wants to live in the capital if there's, because everything is getting more expensive and more crowded, and I would just like to live in somewhere where it's like green and as beautiful as Masdar. Like we don't necessarily need to have 100% self-sustainable cities, but at least half sustainable cities. I mean, I know this is all sounds too overwhelming, and possibly it's hard to take in, but I mean, I think it makes so much sense to implement SkyWay, because I mean, Earth has enough for everyone, and everyone wants to travel and explore new cities, new continents, and just in places we haven't been before. And there's enough space for everyone, but you need to get the right infrastructure in place. And we should stop living in scarcity of resources, because we have enough for everyone, but yet not accessible. So I would like to just finish by saying that I would like to quote Buckminster Fuller, who's an amazing entrepreneur, philanthropist, and who once said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So what does that mean? It means that we should stop upgrading our phones, our cars, our lives, and just transportation system. We should just change it completely, because that's how we can make this work. Because as time goes by, like the old school technology is just not working at all. And the best way to predict the future is by creating and investing in it. And if you want to be part in the future, you need to invest in it. And anyhow, I believe that technology it is ultimately one of the best investments, because I mean, it's very exciting. There's so many new things coming up. But anyway, I think that's a story for another day. So I would like you to introduce Tamila, which is my colleague, and she will tell you a little bit more about like the business side of the SkyWay.
Hello guys, can you hear me? If you can you please put pluses? Okay, Aneta can hear me, great. Can you see my screen? Can you please put pluses if you can see my screen? Okay, perfect. Let's begin with the part called investment and capitalization. Sorry. Before going further, I just want to also introduce myself. as Lalda said, my name is Mila, and I'm very passionate about investment, about business side, sales and marketing. I have a background to working with the sales for a few years now, and I really feel passionate about creating new businesses, new streams of passive income. I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm really just in the beginning of my journey, but at the same time, I do really feel there is lots of opportunity on this world when you can invest your money, invest your time, and of course you can benefit from it. So therefore, the first time I came to the SkyWay, it was 1 year ago, and to be honest, I was from the beginning a bit skeptical because on that time we had such a little information available in English, and it sounded like something like amazing. I never heard of something like this before, and as well as that, technology is like it's awesome field to invest because it's developed very rapidly. You can earn very good returns. So now it's been a year with the SkyWay, and I'm really grateful and I'm really happy that I listened to people who taught me about this. And I'm sure by the time I will explain your part, which called investment and capitalization, you also would have some idea what is this about, what is the returns, what is the possible investments we're seeking. Before going in a bit more details, I want you to read first a disclaimer. I want you to understand that what we do is we just providing you advice. We are not trying to sell you something. The only reason why we do this webinar is just to give you an idea what possible ways to invest, what is the SkyWay. So before acting on this advice, you should consider appropriateness of this advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situation, and needs. Also, the attendees might accept that the sole responsibility associated with the use of material given, irrespective of the purpose of which such use or result apply. So this information on this presentation is no substitute for any financial advice at all. What is investment? It's actually pretty simple. Investment means putting money work for you. There are many ways you can go about investment. As you can see, it could be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or alternative investment, real estate, or even having your own business. Each of these vehicles can have a positive and negative sides. And the point is, it doesn't really matter which method you choose for investing your money. The goal will be always to put the money in something which will gain you in return an additional profit. Even though this seems like to be a very simple idea, this is the most important concept for you to understand. But before going further, let's first think why people want to invest. Of course, some of us want to have financial freedom, want to invest because we want to travel, we want to spend more time with our family, want to have a sense of security, and just ability to afford the things what you want to buy in life. However, in our days, I would say investing it's become a necessity. I believe that if you not look after yourself and in the perspectives of 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 to 15 years, then nobody else will. So this is your job, to find the ways you can create the different streams so you can retire safely, and then you would be able to put the money into something which definitely will work for you in the long term. A bit of statistics. As you can see from the screen, average percentage of the household from 2002 and 2012 increased by 5%. At the same time, if you look at the increase of average household spend on electricity and gas, so compared to 2002 2012, electricity rate increased to 43% and the gas increased on 56%. Average monthly spend on household energy compared to 2002 2012, it's almost a 55% increase. And the last bit of statistic, which is, I guess, the killer, the proportion of pensioners with a different source of income, which is 97% of all pensioners. This is data taken from Department of Work and Pensions, So basically, pension in 2012-2013 average is £133 a week for single, and £201 a week for a couple. And now you tell me, if you're a couple, what can you probably buy for £200 a week? Not much. I'm sure that you notice if you have a long weekends or if you have a day off, what you do, you tend to spend. So can you imagine the rest of your life is one big holiday? So what would you do? Would you sit at home? Not really. You want to go somewhere out, you want to just spend the money, you want to travel, but having £200 a week for couple, this is just impossible. I want to show you this slide not to scare you. Anyhow, this is the pure stats, and I believe that's numbers they can talk. So you do really need to understand what is real life is and what is the heading up in the future. Main objectives. Why people, they generally speaking, they have a few fears when consider what exactly you want to park your money for investment. Of course, you need to think about the safety of capital, your current income, and return on investment. These factors really should influence your investment decision, and of course, it will depend on your personal circumstances, such as age, stage, your position, and etc. Just to give you an example, 75-year-old lady, she would not invest as much money as a 30-year-old businessman. So you also need to understand what tools to choose in order to fulfill your needs. But I guess the best advice I heard is that when you're choosing for investment, you really need to choose to put the money on the different assets, just to differentiate your portfolio as much as you can, just to make sure if one of the vehicles wouldn't work, then clearly you have some backup plan. Otherwise, if you put all your money in one bucket, this could be too risky. I really love this man. It's Peter Lynch. He's entrepreneur, businessman, investor, and one of his famous quotes is, "The key organ for investing is the stomach, not the brain." Which means you need to understand how much risk you can stand to see in your investment. We already mentioned that there are many ways to invest your money. Of course, to decide which investment vehicle is suitable for you, you need to know their characteristics and also why they might be suitable for particular investment objectives. We will go a bit more details on other webinar, definitely, when I will explain each vehicle separately. Purpose of this one, just to give you a brief idea what each of these type of investment can be. The most common investment are alternatives. You can see them on your right-hand side. Most of us heard about ISA, bank, which is bank deposit. So you normally can go to the bank and park your money and have a return something around 5%. So it's not much, but still it's quite safe investment, and normally the people tend to invest with the bank. Second one is Forex. This is very risky investment. Statistics showing that around 93% of people who were ever invest in Forex, they unfortunately failed. That also tells you that the riskier investment is, the more money you can get out of it. It is the fact that in Forex you can do up to you can make up to 1,000% greater than your initial investment, but from the other hand, it is very risky investment. And the real estate. Real estate is very popular, especially here in London. However, it also can be quite risky if you don't know what strategy to use and where to buy, and also it's required to have some money to start with. So therefore, real estate, it's considerably safe investment, but at the same time, you need to learn, you need to know the market, and you need to know what type of investment, what type of houses you invest, and what is your outcome. You're looking to get the short-term benefits that you're renting,